1931. The United States, recovering from the Great Depression, is frantically preparing for a possible war in the Pacific. The main enemy is Japan, with its enormous fleet. American admirals understand the decisive battle will be won by whoever strikes first and accurately. And that strike must be a torpedo. The Navy's Bureau of Ordnance conceives the Mark 14. This is not just a torpedo, this is an engineering marvel. Length, 20.5 feet. Weight, 1.5 tons. Warhead, 643 pounds of TNT explosive. Speed, 46 knots, 53 miles per hour. Range, 5 miles. But the designer's greatest pride is the guidance system. 3 innovations that were supposed to make the Mark 14 unbeatable. 1. The magnetic exploder. The torpedo was supposed to pass under the enemy ship's keel and detonate from the change in the magnetic field, breaking the battleship's spine in one blow. 2. A new type of contact exploder for hitting the side. 3. A piston engine running on kerosene and compressed air, leaving no smoke trail that would give away the torpedo's position. The torpedo cost a fortune, $10,000 per unit. In those days, the price of a fighter plane. It was tested in ideal conditions, at proving grounds, without haste. All tests were successful. By 1938, the Mark 14 was officially adopted. American submariners believe they have the perfect weapon in their hands. December 7, 1941, Pearl Harbor. Japan strikes. America enters the war. U.S. submarines head out into the ocean with a single task: to sink Japanese ships. On board, the latest Mark 14 torpedoes, the pride of American engineering. The first weeks of the war, submariners return empty-handed. Reports are filled with the same phrase: target hit, but no explosion occurred. Submarine commanders are furious. They see a Japanese transport or destroyer in their periscope, fire a torpedo, hear a dull thud of metal against metal, and nothing. The torpedo simply bounces off the hull like a rubber ball and sinks. Officers swear they hit perfectly, but the torpedoes do not explode. Suspicion falls on sabotage, crew cowardice, or a defective batch. No one wants to believe that the perfect weapon could be fatally flawed. December 1941 to July 1942. U.S. submarines launched over 700 Mark 14 torpedoes. The failure rate reached 70 to 80%. Dozens of Japanese ships escaped unscathed from right under the noses of American submariners. The fleet was losing time, money, and, most importantly, strategic advantage. Spring 1942. Submarine commanders, risking their careers, begin writing reports demanding an investigation. The Bureau of Ordnance in Washington dismisses them. You just don't know how to shoot. The torpedo is perfect. A bureaucratic war begins that will last nearly 2 years and cost thousands of American sailors' lives. Finally, under pressure from evidence, real tests are conducted. The result shocks even the skeptics. The Mark 14 suffered from 3 fatal flaws. The first sin, the magnetic exploder. It was calibrated for a completely different magnetic background of the Earth. During tests in the calm northern waters of the Atlantic, it worked. But in the tropical waters of the Pacific, in zones of magnetic anomalies, it triggered erratically, either too early or not at all. Moreover, no one accounted for the fact that the ship's magnetic field is distorted by its movement and proximity to the equator. The exploder simply went insane. The second sin, the contact exploder. Its tests were conducted by firing into rocks at a perfect right angle. In reality, torpedoes often hit the hull at a slight angle. The mechanism would simply jam, and 643 pounds of explosive would helplessly sink to the ocean floor. In 1943, submariners, driven to desperation, began unofficially disabling the magnetic exploders and modifying the contact exploders right at sea, using files and sledgehammers. Only then did the torpedoes begin to explode. The third sin, depth control, the most terrifying error. The torpedo was set to run at a depth of 10 feet under the keel. In reality, due to a calibration error in the pressure sensors, it ran 10 to 13 feet deeper, passing right under the bottoms of Japanese ships without touching them. The magnetic exploder was silent, the contact exploder didn't trigger, and the torpedo simply sailed away into emptiness. By the summer of 1943, a year and a half into the war, the truth finally breaks through. Admiral Charles Lockwood, commander of U.S. submarine forces in the Pacific, conducts a series of brutal but honest experiments. He fires torpedoes at nets, at cliffs, and finally obtains irrefutable proof. The official investigation takes months. The Bureau of Ordnance resists to the last. Admitting error means admitting that American submariners had been dying and failing for a year and a half due to the negligence of designers and bureaucrats. Finally, in late 1943, all three problems were identified and fixed. 1. The magnetic exploder was completely disabled. They would return to it only in 1944, after modifications. 2. The contact exploder was redesigned, strengthening the impact mechanism. 3. The running depth was recalibrated, eliminating the fatal 10 to 13 foot error. But the price was monstrous. According to historians' estimates, due to the Mark XIV's defects, American submariners lost between 18 and 24 months of effective warfare. Dozens of Japanese convoys delivered cargo and troops that should have been sent to the bottom. Hundreds of American sailors died in attacks that could have been successful. The worst part is that the torpedo killed its own. By not exploding, it doomed crews to failure and death. Once all defects were corrected, the Mark XIV finally showed what it could do. 1944 became the year of total American submarine warfare against Japan. The fixed torpedoes sank Japanese tankers, aircraft carriers, transports, and destroyers one after another. The most spectacular victory came in June 1944. The American submarine USS Kavala fired several Mark XIVs at the Japanese aircraft carrier Shokaku, a veteran of Pearl Harbor. The torpedoes worked perfectly. The carrier sank, taking over 1,200 Japanese sailors with it. If the torpedoes had been this reliable in 1942, the Pacific War might have unfolded very differently. In total, over the years of the war, over 13,000 Mark XIV torpedoes were launched. After the defects were fixed, they destroyed over 4 million tons of Japanese shipping, becoming the primary weapon of the American submarine fleet. Conclusion: the Mark XIV is the most controversial torpedo in history. It was designed by geniuses, crippled by bureaucrats, and saved by ordinary sailors with sledgehammers in their hands. It failed to explode for 2 years and then sank the enemy by the dozen. Its story is not a tale of technical failure, but a story of human arrogance and the price that ordinary soldiers pay for the mistakes of desk-bound minds. The key idea: the Mark XIV reminds us, the most perfect weapon is useless if those who create it do not listen to those who use it. And sometimes, to defeat the enemy, you first have to defeat your own bureaucracy.